Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi flew to Washington for her second summit with Donald Trump, and on the surface, it looked like a sequel to their first. Hugs, hand-holding, a 90-minute closed-door meeting, a 3-course dinner, words of praise that bordered on gushing. But underneath all of that, there was pressure. Pressure over Iran, pressure over oil. Then a reporter asked Trump why the US hadn't warned its allies before bombing Iran. And the President of the United States answered with a Pearl Harbor joke. The room went quiet. Hi, I'm Jeff Richards. This week on Japan Today Spotlight, the Takaichi-Trump relationship. Because behind the optics, there is a much bigger question. What does the US actually expect Japan to do? Takaichi didn't walk into this meeting unprepared. She is following a model, the Shinzo Abe playbook. Abe understood something early about Donald Trump. Policy matters, but personal relationships matter more. Trump responds to loyalty, to praise, and to leaders who don't challenge him, at least not publicly. Takaichi is doing the same. She arrived with a gift, 250 cherry trees to mark the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And from the moment she stepped out of her car, the tone was set. A hug from Trump, arms around each other's backs as they walked inside. That's not your standard diplomacy. During the talks, Takaichi took it a step further. She called him Donald. Very few world leaders do that in public. And she leaned into the message. I firmly believe that it is only you, Donald, who can achieve peace across the world. It's deliberate, it's calculated, and it's straight out of Abe's approach. The goal isn't just diplomacy, it's influence. Because if Japan is going to say no, or even not yet, to the United States, it needs Trump on its side first. Now, before Takaichi even arrived in Washington, the pressure was already building. Trump wanted allies to help secure the Strait of Hormuz. And Japan, which depends on that route for more than 90% of its oil, was always going to be in the conversation. About 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Around 84% of that is headed to Asia. Trump applied public pressure, calling NATO cowards and berating allies, including Japan and South Korea, for their reluctance to help secure the waterway. And he made his expectations of Japan explicit. I expect Japan to step up because, we have that kind of relationship. We have 45,000 soldiers in Japan. We spend a lot of money on Japan. The message was simple. We do a lot for you. Now it's your turn. Then, the day after the summit, he shifted back, suggesting Japan, China, and others should contribute to securing the route. When Trump shifts like that, it creates uncertainty for Japan. Because for Tokyo, this isn't just a policy decision. It's a legal and political minefield. Sending self-defense forces into a potential conflict zone, even for something like minesweeping, raises constitutional questions. And public support is far from guaranteed. So heading into the summit, the concern in Japan was clear. Would Trump push Takaichi to commit? Spoiler alert, he didn't. There was no joint press conference. No moment where Takaichi had to answer that question on the spot. Instead, she briefed Japanese reporters afterwards. Her position was careful. Japan is prepared to contribute, but only under specific conditions, including a ceasefire and within the limits of its constitution. In other words, support, but with boundaries. For now, Japan appears to have avoided a direct commitment. No immediate deployment, no escalation. Then, the moment that defined the summit. It came during a press exchange. A Japanese journalist asked a direct question. Why didn't the United States inform Japan or other allies before launching airstrikes on Iran. The question was about coordination, about trust. Trump's answer went somewhere different. We wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? You believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. This wasn't a private remark. It was in front of cameras, in front of Japan's Prime Minister, in the context of a modern military operation. Takaichi's reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened. She shifted in her chair. She glanced down at her watch. Some speculated this was a signal to aides, a clue to move the room on. The summit was the first in-person meeting between Trump and a G7 leader since the war in Iran started. Every major foreign outlet covered it, and almost every story led with that same moment. Pearl Harbor. In the United States, late-night television comedians had a field day. To much of the American media cycle, though, it was just another Trump moment. Within 48 hours, already yesterday's news. But for Japan, it wasn't yesterday's news. In Japan, the reaction was much more complicated. On social media, responses ranged from accusations of ignorance and rudeness directed at Trump to praise for Takaichi for just staying composed. After all, the goal of the summit was to deepen ties with Japan's most important ally, not debate World War II. Hitoshi Tanaka, a former diplomat and special advisor at the Japan Research Institute, wrote on X that he felt more embarrassed watching Takaichi flatter and fawn over Trump than by the Pearl Harbor remarks themselves. Morio Chijiiwa of TV Asahi, the reporter whose question prompted Trump's response, also came under scrutiny. He later said on a talk show that he asked the question to represent the feelings of Japanese people who aren't happy about Trump's attack on Iran, and because Japan and other countries are being asked to help out. Then President Trump hit back with the Pearl Harbor attack. I found it extremely awkward for him to change the subject. Others were frustrated for a different reason, that Takaichi didn't say anything to Trump to stop the war. A 53-year-old woman told an AP reporter, "I think Trump's Pearl Harbor comment was stupid, but to me, the war he started is a much bigger problem." Others lashed out on Reddit. "This is just who Trump is, obnoxious and childish. He has no dignity or grace, and everyone knows this. It won't affect U.S.-Japan relations." Some pointed out further at what it said about America itself. We don't bat an eye at cheap jokes about Pearl Harbor anymore. That's not what matters. The real problem we're facing is that America is crumbling from within. What did the summit achieve? Well, away from the headlines, there were some tangible results, mainly economic. Japan and the United States announced a series of major projects, including a plan to develop small modular nuclear reactors, all part of a broader package worth about $73 billion, tied to Japan's larger $550 billion investment commitment made last year in exchange for tariff relief. There were also agreements to cooperate on deep-sea mineral development, shipbuilding, as well as cooperation on artificial intelligence and advanced technology. This wasn't just diplomacy, it was business. And the guest list reflected that. At the dinner table, SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son and senior leadership from major US tech companies, including Google. That tells you where the focus is, because alongside the political tension, both sides are reinforcing something else: economic interdependence. Takaichi also signaled interest in joining the US Golden Dome missile defense system. This is a next-generation shield designed to detect and intercept hypersonic missiles, weapons that travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound. These sit alongside the pressure from Washington. On Iran, on security, on alliance commitments. So the outcome of this summit is clear. Japan deepened economic ties with the United States, while continuing to manage and limit its military role. On the one issue that actually mattered, what Japan will do militarily in the Strait of Hormuz, the summit produced nothing concrete. No commitment, no timeline, no answer. What it produced was a lot of footage. Takaichi calling Trump Donald. Trump calling Takaichi powerful and strong. And a Pearl Harbor joke that traveled around the world in 48 hours. Whether that adds up to a successful summit depends entirely on what you think the summit was for. From the Japan Today newsroom in Tokyo, I'm Jeff Richards. See me next time.